This is Justin.
And this is Haley, and you're listening to The Price of Avocado Toast.
We're a married millennial couple wanting to normalize conversations about money. We want to hear about your highs and your lows.
The do's and the don'ts on your path towards financial freedom. Hi Toasties, welcome to The Price of Avocado Toast.
Whether you're a first-time listener or you've been following us from the start of this thing, we're so glad to have this conversation with you today.
Let's talk about food.
Yes, our favorite thing.
In the whole world, literally. I mean, besides
One
I think
another
you're
and
my
our
fa-
kids.
yeah.
besides a few other things. But yes, food. I'm excited for this episode because it's been one that we didn't touch on at all in season 1, but it's something that really helped us in our debt-free journey and getting on the right track with our budget.
And I know so many of you listening also struggle with this area. So I hope that this episode can let you know that you're not alone, but also give you some tangible things that you can go implement, like at the start of a new month, and get started hammering down that food budget, because food budgets are pretty wild.
Yes. Before we even talk about food budgets and restaurant budgets and all that stuff, there's something I actually kind of want to talk about that I didn't put on the notes, but something that I think is really important to address. There's a really serious issue in our nation and in the world with quality access to food and quality access to groceries and food deserts and the marketing of fast food to low-income communities. So I want people to be mindful of that as we talk during this episode, that there are really large issues surrounding food within our nation, and there's a lot of things that we could be doing better. So if there's something that we say during this episode that makes it sound like we're glossing over that fact or glossing over those larger issues, I want people to know that, hey, we're cognizant of those things, and it's something that we recognize in the world and in our country right now.
That's a really good point.
Well, I just read a book recently, and the author, he's an NFL player, and he was doing some charity work with food banks, and he was in a meeting talking about getting healthy food into schools and the cafeterias, and two of the people in the meeting were the execs for Pepsi and McDonald's or something like that. And he was like, why are you two even in this meeting? And they were like blaming, oh yeah, kids in school are unhealthy and they don't eat right. And he's thinking, wait a minute, but I've been in the communities where there's no healthy grocery store for an hour and people have to ride a bus to commute somewhere to get groceries, and they have to pay an overpriced amount of money to get a grocery store in their town or something like that. It's just absolutely wild the lengths that people have to go to get quality food for their family. Why would you not turn to fast food? If it took me a 3 to 4 hour trip at the end of my workday to go to the store, I would probably turn to fast food as well, because I know it's easy. I can get it for relatively cheap for my family, and it's good, right? It may not be good for my body, but there's obviously psychological, processes that go through eating that fast food, or else they wouldn't be making that much money.
Yeah.
So it was just really interesting, and it's something that I've been trying to think about more regularly in my mind when I'm thinking about access to food and access to quality produce and stuff.
That's a really good point. I also often think like money and food is associated with like health and wanting to eat well and be healthy. And it's sad because a lot of the time fast food can be cheaper than buying a $7 salad at the local store. And the local stores are more expensive, especially the produce. So we really get in a situation, if you don't have access to that, if there's not a grocery store near you, but there's a McDonald's, then there's a dollar menu.
Yeah.
And that's what you're battling with. So.
And then on top of that, I think it's California just announced that they'll be giving free lunch to all students in public school.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, so we've had this money the whole time, yet we were still billing students for unpaid cafeteria fines, and we're, withholding food from lunch until a balance is paid. Like, what a joke. What a joke that our priorities are so messed up that we're fining kids and families to have access to food when they're on campus for 8 hours a day.
I can say this because they fired me, but the school district that fired me a couple years ago, there was a student that kept getting late fees, and they had not even a late fee, like unpaid lunch fee,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to give him this little strip that said, you have $70 past due on your account, pay it. And they had like 6 kids in the family, and during parent conferences, I told the dad, I know you can't afford this. Don't pay it. They're not gonna not give your kid food because
Mm-hmm.
of the situation of the school. They actually were going to continue to give the kids food whether or not they paid. And I mean, I shouldn't have to tell a parent that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you shouldn't have to pay this because you
Mm-hmm.
don't have the money. Don't go into debt to pay for this bill when they're going to continue feeding your kid. Like, this is a stupid system. But it is what it is.
Yeah, and I don't think it's the food service workers on campuses. Obviously, we know it's not them. They're incredible human
Of
beings who work
course.
super hard to
It's a
provide.
way bigger
Yeah,
system.
it's many heads above them.
Mhm.
Above administrators in districts. It's at a
It's like a state level.
state level that's an issue. That we're tying funding to something
Mhm.
like that. What a joke.
And it's not just California.
Yeah, yeah.
If you live in another state and you have like free lunches for all the kids at school, let me know. I don't know of any other state that does that, but I'm sure that there is a situation.
I think California is the first state to do it.
For real?
Yeah, I don't think anywhere else does it.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Some of the school lunches are like $5 a day.
Mhm.
And think people have more than one child.
Mhm.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean,
Thanks for bringing this up. This is a good thing.
it's just I think it's just really important as we talk
Yeah.
about food and the budget and stuff and the different listeners that we have and family dynamics and what people are going through. It's really important to be cognizant of that as well. There's gonna be times where we might say something and somebody's gonna be like, "Well, that doesn't apply to me because that's not near me," and we get it. This is what's worked for us with hammering down our food budget, and it may not work for everybody. And there may be systemic issues that make it not work for everybody, and that's not fair. That's not okay. And it's an issue that we need to be mindful of. So I wanted to bring that up before we get started. But today's episode is going to be focused on what Haley and I did to hammer out our food budget and a couple practical things that maybe you can do, and then some of our favorite low cost recipes, which we're going to be sharing on the Instagram throughout this week because we're going to put them into our meal plan for when we go shopping tomorrow.
This was like a 2-for-1.
It really was.
It really was. We needed to plan the podcast. We needed to meal plan. And I was like, hey, we're already going to be talking about these recipes. Let's just make them. So we're going
Yeah.
to make them. And I will share the recipes on Instagram so you guys can try these out if you want. It's nothing fancy, but these are some cheap, great tasting meals that they're like staples
Yeah.
for us because they're inexpensive. They taste really good. And you can get these ingredients pretty much anywhere.
And they're simple to do.
Very and fast.
Yes.
We are all about like efficiency with stuff like this
Absolutely.
and not wasting time.
1000%. So the reason we want to talk about food budget today, you guys, is because food is traditionally the number one most difficult thing when it comes to beginning your budget or starting a budget or tracking a budget or continuing on or being successful when you're a year and a half in like we are. Like we struggle with food because you don't always know what your food costs are going to be. You try and set a number, it may not be a realistic goal. You might overspend, something comes up, you make an easier choice than cooking dinner at home that night, and the cost really starts to add up.
And food is literally a huge part of your budget.
Massive.
It's massive. Like you have housing, you have transportation. I mean, food's typically more than your transportation.
Yeah.
It's a really expensive part of your budget. And so we need to be realistic about the goals that we set. And if you Google things that are like, hey, average cost of family of 3, like that's usually nationwide. That has nothing to do with your location and how much things cost where you live. So that I just want to throw that out there because I looked up when we first started and we were 2 people plus a baby that was eating baby-led weaning, and it said that we should be eating like $300 worth of groceries, and that is ridiculous. That is not enough food.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's like one grocery trip.
Yeah, and I think it's important to recognize, what you do like to spend on, and
Totally.
if food is something that you value or food is something that you enjoy, you don't have to restrict your budget so much that you are unhappy with what you're eating or putting bad things in your body that don't make you feel good or not nourishing your body like you should. It's okay to have that be a budget item that maybe is a little bit more money for you, but that gives you sustainability or a clear head while you're at work all day or whatever it may be.
And people have like diet issues too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's tons
Or
of different diet choices or just ways that people want to live, maybe not even like a diet need, but just a personal choice.
right.
And some of those can cost some serious money.
I think of the people that I know that are super into fitness and they bring those like giant boxes everywhere with all their meal prepped and everything. They probably spend so much money on food because they want to eat, whole foods, fresh produce, and that's not cheap.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. So the first tip I should say that we want to give y'all when you begin to look at your food budget is separate groceries from restaurants. Now some people just throw it all together and they say, "Hey, I've got a little bit more in my budget this month. Maybe I can go eat out at a restaurant," or "Hey, it's a little bit tight. I need to cut back." We are strong advocates for actually separating it out. And it's kind of twofold. The first one being that you might like to have a social setting in your month where you actually get to eat out. And that's like a mental health thing, right? Might make you feel a little bit better when you have that day that you can look forward to of getting to eat out and, enjoy that moment or, yeah, enjoy that community with somebody else.
Mhm.
That's really important on your debt-free journey to have those little moments where you can still feel good. But the other reason that you're going to want to separate them out is because things also come up. And there's going to be maybe a night throughout the month where you're like, "Oh shoot, work ran really, really late and I'm not going to have enough time to get home and cook this food for the kids," or something like that. And so for us, when we budgeted it out as restaurants versus groceries, it made us be a little more mindful of it, but also a little bit more okay with it. We weren't as let down when we had to tap into our restaurant budget because we had a budget for it. It
Yeah.
wasn't like we were like, "Oh, I'm taking my groceries to go spend food when I should just cook at home, but I don't want to keep the my family up late waiting for dinner." Like, it's okay. You've budgeted it out so you can use that money and not stress. It's a quick little speed bump versus, a stop sign in the road.
And then we actually were able to see exactly what we spent on restaurants and eating out. And it wasn't just going to a restaurant and sitting down. In our restaurant budget, we also included like quick Starbucks trips for coffee or whatever. But I think I've mentioned this several times before. But when we first started budgeting, we looked back at our spending and we had been spending like $700-800 a month on eating out.
That is wild
And
for
that
two
is
people.
not groceries. And so we needed to have them separated so we were holding ourselves accountable with how much we were actually eating out. And we have sliced that so small.
So small.
We now have a $75 budget for eating out. And to be totally frank, we go over almost every month, but not very much. We should probably adjust that a little higher to probably like 150, which is still not very much.
I don't even know if we need to do to 150 though.
100?
I mean, I think that the only reason you're thinking that we go over is because of recency bias with the move and the things that we've been doing, traveling back home to visit people and not getting home in time to cook dinner. Like I think during this school year, it's going to be incredible. I think we'll come at 75 or even under.
Yeah, that's true. We have been doing a lot
Mhm.
more lately.
And maybe that's
Good
something to
point.
look forward to next year. Upping our summer budget a
Like
little
over
bit for it.
summer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the groceries, that's going to depend on what type of food you like to eat, but for us, our budget ranges between $500 to $700. And 700 would be like if we have something big going on that month. For example, this past month we just went camping and we bought food for that. Or if we were hosting a party or doing something like that, having people over, we would plan for that and then adjust accordingly. But usually it's around 600. A
Mhm.
couple months ago we had it at 500 and we kept going over and over and over. And so we had to adjust that. We increased it a whole $100 because that was realistic.
Yeah.
And then we've been able to stay in that area.
The other aspect of that too is that our local market is a market that I've heard inserts itself into communities where there are not other options, so
Mhm.
that they're the only provider and therefore they have the cost a little bit higher, which
Mhm.
is kind of interesting because where we came from, we had access to a bunch of different stores, Safeway, Rayleigh's, grocery outlet, Food Max, there's Food for Less. There was Oliver's, which is kind of, like a local market. Like there were so many different options. compared to where we are now, there's a Safeway about 20 minutes up the road, and then a Holiday Market about 10 minutes up the road. So it's kind of like pick your poison, whichever one you want to go to. That's all you get, really.
Yeah, and that's if we're just doing basic shopping. Like, we have Costco that's 45 minutes away that we go to for most of our stuff, but we even try to be more cautious of the things that we buy at Costco, because when we first started our debt-free journey, we would buy like absolutely everything at Costco, and then things would go bad because it was, although we like food, it was just two of
It's
us.
too much bulk.
Way too much bulk. Like,
Yeah.
we literally didn't need that much food. So, not everyone has the luxury of being able to drive 45 minutes to a grocery store. And when you can't do that, or when things are way far away, you do have to go to whatever is near you. And for us, that is a local market that is way more expensive.
Yeah. So it kind of goes back to what you're saying with, don't Google, oh, what should my family of 4 be spending on groceries? It's really personal. Isn't that strange? Personal finance even includes your food budget. Interesting. All right, you guys, we have a couple keys for success that really helped us. And so, like we mentioned, obviously split groceries and restaurants into 2 different categories, but we want to specifically focus on that grocery budget right now. So the first key for success, which I'm sure you've all heard before, is do not go shopping when you're hungry.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
That's the most important one, though, because especially if you go to a grocery store that does stuff in bulk.
It feels like a restaurant.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You're going to look at the products and be so excited. You're going to think, oh my gosh, I want 16 corn dogs. And you don't need 16 corn dogs to be kept in the house. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, if you like corn dogs, that's totally okay. But even if it's like scrambling an egg on the stovetop really quick, get something in your system before you go so that you're not shopping with your stomach. You're actually shopping with your grocery list.
And now that we live so far away from Costco, and like 45 minutes to get there, and then we have the park, which is a whole nother fiasco. The Roseville Costco is a nightmare. But then, we shop for 40 minutes or whatever, and by the time we're in the checkout, they're like, hey, do you want a chicken bake? And I'm like, hell yeah, I want a chicken bake. So now I have to eat something or bring a little snack on the way. Otherwise, I am starving by the time I just walked all the way through Costco, saw everything awesome, and then they ask me if I want anything. Like, of course I'm going to want something. That's why they do that. They're sneaky. Okay, the next keys for success in grocery shopping is to make a meal plan before you go, and make sure you never go grocery shopping without a grocery list. That is literally associated with your meal plan. Meal plan first, grocery list second.
Absolutely. And you might want a meal plan for just a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe even the whole month. We've tinkered with both, or I should say all of those options. And now that we're up here, we tend to make a meal plan for the month, but then grocery shop in like 2-week increments so that we don't have things going bad. Now, if it's something that's like bulk and can be frozen, we get it for just the month. But for most things, we hover around 2 weeks before we need to make another trip.
And then you only have to do a meal plan once a month.
Yes.
And that's just dinners. We don't do like the whole shebang.
Yes.
Just dinners.
Yeah, we usually get other stuff that we can piece through and make lunches for. You're a big leftovers fan, so maybe we have some leftovers. You'll eat that. I'm a leftovers fan too, but just not for lunch. I'm kind of weird in that I don't like hot lunches.
I love leftovers for lunch.
Yeah, I'm kind of weird like that.
I would eat leftovers every night. I mean, every day for lunch, and you would eat leftovers for like 5 nights straight if you could.
Yes, I could. I would just have a sandwich every single lunch. Yeah, it's just the way things go. But we seriously recommend find whatever meal plan structure works for you, whether it's planning for the week, planning for 2 weeks, or planning for the month, and give it a shot. Give it a shot for maybe 2 or 3 months before you switch it up. And make sure that your grocery list is like down to a science based off of your meal plan and the ingredients you'll need.
And think of the things. This is something I'm trying to do more lately. Think of the things that you want to buy and go out to eat for. So, for example, I really want Mongolian barbecue. I really want, I don't know, Taco Tree. If you're local to Nevada County, you'll know what that is. But those are the things that I'm like, I want to grab that. I want this. I want this. You can put that on your meal plan. Mm-hmm. You can plan to go out to eat those things. Or if you're like Justin and you like to cook and be creative with things, maybe find a recipe for Mongolian barbecue and make it at home.
Yeah.
So you can fit those things into your budget and not be depriving yourself of awesome, good foods. You don't have to eat like just beans and rice.
I was gonna say, I think of the famous Dave Ramsey and his, beans and rice, rice and beans, and at the end of the day, it's like I don't want to just eat the same, white rice and boiled beans every single night. Like I want a little bit more flair in my meal plan, and that's okay to do that. It's not like
Yeah.
that stuff costs a ton of money.
Mhm.
So it's really important though that you meal plan and make a grocery list. And we've done a super great job of not only making our meal plan and grocery list fit, but we make our grocery list fit the layout of the store that we're going to. We are experts when it comes to shopping at Costco because we know exactly what path we need to take to A, maximize our time there and be efficient, B, avoid the pitfalls and traps of getting us to overspend, and C, make our way directly to the rotisserie chicken because I'm telling you guys, the rotisserie chicken at Costco is gold. Now, it's so cool. They actually lose money on their rotisserie chicken every single year. Like Costco as a whole, the company, loses money selling the rotisserie chicken, but they put it in the back of the store. So you have to pass by all of the displays, all of the other things trying to grab and pull at you in Costco to sell you on this new item or this thing that you need just to go get this like $5 chicken. But they're the best chickens. They're so wonderful. We love using them in multiple meals for a couple days in a row, and we've become experts at making our way almost directly back to them so that we get those things without splurging or impulse buying on the other things.
And if you're a Costco person, I recommend when you enter the store, go around the outside perimeter of the store. Just don't even go through the middle. You don't need shoes. You don't need clothes, and you definitely don't need all that liquor unless that's why you went to Costco. If you went to Costco for those things. We just avoid the middle and just go around the outside, go straight where we need to go, and then we leave.
Yep.
And I would say 95% of the time we stick straight to it.
Oh, yeah.
And on the occasion, I throw random chocolate-covered almond in the basket.
This is true. But recently we've been going and they've been missing like 3 or 4 items. So we just don't get them. So shout out Costco maybe for helping our food budget.
I mean, yeah, but some of the things that they're missing are just weird. Like shampoo and
Very weird.
like who runs out of their own Kirkland brand shampoo for
Very
a good
weird.
3 months? What is that?
Yeah.
Anyway, I have
Interesting.
issues with them. Love-hate relationship.
Definitely. Another important thing to think about when you're, attacking your grocery store of choice is what items do they have that might be really budget friendly, or what are some things I might need to get from somewhere else? For example, when we were living back in our old county, we would go to this really good family farm stand for a lot of our produce because we realized that when we were buying bulk produce at Costco, it was going bad before we could even enjoy it.
Yep.
And we were actually still eating a lot of produce. It's not like we were like just letting it sit. We were eating a lot of produce, but it was much more budget friendly to go to this farmer's stand, get what we need, eat it, and then go back a few days later if we needed that. So really do your homework on what grocery stores are going to be the best for you and your budget and actually using them. Maybe there's somewhere that does bulk non-perishables. Again, like Costco, maybe you get 6 jars of pasta sauce and you can keep those in the pantry if you've got space and you don't need to buy them from another grocery store. But it just takes actually doing the homework on figuring out what's going to be the best dollar cost for you.
Mm-hmm. Can you explain the Costco membership, the thing that we have where we get paid?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's the executive membership. Shout out us, executive members at Costco.
Holla.
Holler. And I think it's either 2% or 4% back on the year. So whatever you spend at Costco, they'll give you in a refund check once a year, 2% or 4% of your total purchase, amounts. So let's say
to $1,000 of a refund.
Yeah, up to exactly. They're not gonna give you a ton, but yeah, let's say that you spent $100 at Costco. They're gonna give you $4 back. So it's not a ton, but the membership is only $120. So you've only got to spend, I don't even know how much to get there. I don't really want to do the math right now. I guess I could do the math, right?
All we're saying is our Costco membership has been well paid for by our spending for the last few years.
Yes.
Because we go there for almost everything.
Yes. I
Are you
I don't
doing the
want.
math?
Yeah, but I don't really want to do it right now.
It's okay. It's a lot.
Okay. You know what? How about this? I'm putting it out to our favorite toasty, my grandmother who's listening. I know that she's going to listen to this episode.
And she's doing the math right
and
now.
I know she's going to do the math right now. So
let us know.
we need to know what percentage or how much do I need to spend to get the $120 membership paid for at a 4% return. There
Alright.
you go.
That's some 6th grade math, but
There it is.
we're good.
There it is. Let's figure it out.
Okay, another huge thing is being creative with your leftovers. So, like the rotisserie chicken, if you can get something and be able to use it several nights in a row, but not necessarily boring your family out eating the same thing all week long, then you're going to get way more bang for your buck. For example, we use the Costco rotisserie chicken for like everything. And if we get it, we'll have it in like a Caesar salad with chicken one night, like buffalo chicken wraps the next night, chicken pizza the next night. I don't know, just by itself.
Mhm.
Chicken with potatoes. We like chicken, okay?
Yeah. And the rotisserie chicken there is super good.
But you can be super creative with the ways that you use your ingredients so your family doesn't get bored.
Yeah, and the staple or the main subject of the dish can all be the same, but you can switch things up so that nobody ever feels like, oh, it's the same thing, right? There's like that, I don't know, that famous commercial or something, where the kids are like, oh, blank again, whatever the dinner was, and they're just like totally let down by mom's casserole. And that's not what it has to be, right? You can take that chicken and throw it in some kind of really cool pasta bake, and then the next day do some type of really awesome like Thai wrap with it or something. There's so many different ways that you can use those staple products and make a totally different dish, just with a little bit of creativity. And look it up online. I look up recipes all the time online just by Googling the items I have. So I'll say like, pesto, chicken, lemon, fettuccine, creamer. And you should find like some really cool, I don't know, pesto carbonara with a lemon garnish or something. Like, there's so many things that you can find.
If you guys haven't noticed, Justin really likes to cook. And yeah, if you have trouble with recipes, just, send us a message and I will I will have him take over the Instagram and teach you how to cook, because apparently he was the president of the culinary club in high school, and I didn't even know this until a few months ago. I'm shocked.
Well,
I mean, I'm not shocked because you're such a great cook.
thank you.
I'm shocked that I didn't know.
Well, now you do.
I do know. And
And-
your mom gave me the book.
There it is.
What is it? It's a bunch of recipes that
Yeah.
you made for your
My
senior
senior
project.
project. Yeah.
Yep. So we're set.
And if you're somebody listening and you're like, oh, I have this really good low budget dish that we make in my family all the time and you guys should try it, please send it over, because I will totally throw it in our meal plan. And we'll take pictures and I'll send it over and say, this is the most incredible thing I've ever made, and thank you so much for sharing your recipe.
Yeah. And if
Yeah.
you want, we'll give you credit.
I will totally give you Instagram credit. Yeah. I don't know how valuable it is, but we'll totally do it.
Okay, let's talk about our favorite low-cost recipes.
All right. This is the best part of the episode. You've got your meal plan made.
I really hope that you guys are like not listening to this on an empty stomach.
Yeah. Somebody's really hungry right now. There's a couple people like clean their houses and listen to this. Maybe they'll pause
That
and
might
get a
be
snack.
distracting.
Yeah. Okay,
Sorry.
so you've got your meal plan made. You might have to take a couple spots out of your meal plan to put these in, because I think you will definitely like these. We're gonna give you 3 dinner recipes, 1 breakfast recipe. It's not even really like a recipe. It's just like a, hey, do this to save some money. So
Yeah, and it makes your mornings easier too.
absolutely. Okay, kick it off, honey, with our first recipe.
Okay, this is like a hardcore staple. It is stuffed bell peppers, and I've shared pictures of this on Instagram before. Stuffed bell peppers, and we do rice on the side. Now, you could do these vegetarian, you can use any meat, but we use lean ground turkey, and we put so many seasonings and vegetables inside of it that it doesn't taste bland. It's really
It's so good.
What type of seasonings do you usually put in it?
I'll switch it up. So I usually will do something like oregano and thyme are almost always in there. Oregano and thyme really give this like super good kind of nutty taste to the turkey that I really like. So I'm always usually oregano and thyme. Often we'll add garlic powder, but I've recently been switching it up and subbing in just Lowry's seasoning salt
Oh,
with the
yes,
ground turkey.
yeah.
And it just gives this really good kind of zing that I've enjoyed.
And for vegetables, we just use whatever we have, but most of the time it's zucchini, mushroom, and the top of the bell pepper.
And an onion,
And
throw
an
an onion
onion,
in there
that's true.
usually, and some diced tomato.
And if we have like spinach, you could throw that in there.
Yeah,
You
it's
can
literally whatever
you
veggies you
can
have, just throw them in.
yeah, and you can literally do whatever you want. You could do this with ground beef. You could do this with I mean,
Shredded rotisserie chicken,
yeah,
whatever you wanted.
it's so good. So we will share our recipe the way we make it on Instagram, but know that this can be changed and spiced up however you want. And shout out to Costco, they sell bell peppers in packs of 6. So
Yeah,
when we make this, it's usually 2 dinners and a lunch or 2.
yeah,
It's a lot.
it's a lot for sure. And it's a good recipe. It's low cost because ground turkey's relatively inexpensive. The vegetables you're usually buying for a couple days and you don't need a ton. It's low cost right there. Rice, incredibly cheap.
It's low calorie
Like it's a great dish. It's a
and
great
it's very
dish.
filling.
Hmm.
Hardcore love this one.
Yes. So expect to see stuffed bell peppers on the Instagram at some point later this week. Our number two recipe is our zucchini meatball boats. Now these are kind of not totally fair because they're actually based off of Costco's like Italian style meatballs. We just get their meatballs, you guys, and keep them in the house because they're easy to throw on your meal plan.
But you can buy frozen meatballs in a bag at any grocery store.
For sure.
So you don't need Costco brand. You can make your own
Make your own meatballs if you want to get ground beef. You got a really good meatball recipe, yeah.
or ground turkey or
Or ground
ground
turkey.
chicken or pork, literally whatever you want. But we use the Costco ones just because we get a bag and we have it in the house because it's easy protein.
Yep. And Calliope really likes them.
Yeah, they're really good. So
Mhm.
we just like scoop out the thing and stick them in. It literally takes no time. It's very fast to put together, but it takes about 50 minutes to bake.
Yeah, the zucchinis are a little firm, so you got to take a while to let them bake. But you're basically just cutting them in half, scooping them out, lining them with a little bit of red sauce, some meatballs, top with your favorite cheese. We've done them with mozzarella. We've done them with provolone. We've sprinkled some Parmesan on there. Throw them in the oven, pull them out, and you've got these really, really nice kind of little low carb Italian meatball boats. You serve them with like a house salad on the side. House salad. I sound like a restaurant. You serve them with like just like some kind of chopped salad from the fridge, and you've got a great dinner right there. Super low cost. Takes maybe a little bit more time than some of the others, but it's great.
Yeah, don't make that in your house when it's 104 degrees and you don't have like air conditioning.
Yeah, steer clear of that.
A little too hot. Okay, you talk about this next one because you like the rotisserie chicken, and I will talk about the casserole.
Okay, fantastic. This next one, super simple, just standard rotisserie chicken and potatoes. So when you get the Costco rotisserie chicken, or wherever you're getting your rotisserie chicken from, whether it's your local store near you, or I mean, we've seen it in Safeway, we've seen it in Costco, we've seen it in Holiday Market, we saw it in Oliver's. Like it's everywhere's doing rotisserie chickens nowadays. Go ahead and just cut pieces off of the chicken and eat it like you normally would. So carve the entire breast out and have chicken breast for dinner, already seasoned and ready to go. Get a large bag of potatoes. We'll do, like a 15-pound bag of potatoes from Costco.
For $3.
Yeah, for dirt cheap. And you can mash them. You can bake them. You can air fry them if you want. You can pan saute them with some herbs. Whatever you want to do. Super easy to throw together some rotisserie chicken, potatoes. Pick your veggie of choice. Maybe saute a little green beans and some lemon and garlic. And you've got a really well-balanced dish that is super cheap. And that rotisserie chicken's going to last you a second and a third night, too. Super
So
rad. I
bomb.
love that chicken. If you can't tell, the theme of this should just be rotisserie chicken should be in your meal plan.
Oh my god, we should name this episode Winner Winner Chicken Dinner.
Winner chicken dinner. Done.
That's the
Official.
name.
It's titled. I love it.
Okay, we love breakfast, and this last one is a breakfast casserole that we really like to do because, well, it's easy, but once it's made, it's breakfast for 4 days for us. 4 whole days. That's nearly the whole work week. So you can do this however you want, but we line a what do you call that? Pan? What kind of pan?
Like a glass baking
like
pan?
casserole dish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can
whatever.
call it baking
We
pan,
line that
whatever.
with some sort of potato, and we used to use tater shots because tater shots are bomb.
Incredible.
But now we're trying to be a little better, so we just use the same bag from Costco, just regular potatoes.
Mhm.
And we pop them in the air fryer first so they're nice and crispy. And we put them at the bottom of the dish. And then we just pile everything in. So we will saute whatever vegetables we have that we want to use. We tend to use the same vegetables that we used in the stuffed bell peppers. So the, what is it?
Mushroom,
Bell pepper,
zucchini, and bell pepper are usually what
an
we do.
onion,
Mhm.
whatever you have. And will saute that up first and then put it in. And then we put whatever meat we want to use. Sometimes we've done chopped up pieces of ham. Sometimes we've done chicken apple sausage or just like a little
It's
sausage,
like a pound of like Italian
breakfast
sausage log. Yeah.
yeah. And then pour the eggs in.
Yep.
And then bake it with some cheese. It is
Super
so easy.
Super filling. Great way to start your morning. Just a nice filling breakfast that's gonna make your heart and your head feel nourished.
And it makes 8 little squares, and I'm sure you could make the square smaller, but we divide it into 8, and so for both of us it's 4 days of breakfast. And
Yeah.
how do you store them? You just put them in tinfoil?
I don't even do that. I just cover the dish
Oh,
with
I was thinking
tinfoil.
of the breakfast sandwiches.
Yeah. I mean, it's a super easy thing to do. I think the family's going to love it because it's super easy to just warm a little bit each morning. If you're worried about the calorie count, I can promise you it ain't that much. I think it's like it's like sub 400 calories just for like one of the 8 servings. So it's really not that bad.
You can also ditch the potatoes
You can
if you
certainly
really
ditch
want
potatoes.
to.
You could just ditch the meat if you just wanted to do eggs and veggies.
Or the cheese.
Yeah, there's so many ways you could do it to just continue to cut calories and still get a really filling breakfast.
Yeah.
But it's dirt cheap. Eggs at Costco for, 5 dozen are so cheap, and you're already using these veggies because of stuffed bell peppers, and it's a win-win. Your belly and your budget are happy.
And I like a big breakfast. So that's a very filling breakfast that keeps me full for several hours. So then we're not snacking.
Yes.
Anyway, we like chicken, we like eggs, we like vegetables, and we reuse a lot of the same stuff over and over. But none of these taste the same. They're all so different. And
Mhm.
these are just some of the regular things that we have as staples in our meal plan. And we will be making these this week.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hungry, even though we already ate dinner.
I know. It's fun talking about food. Don't forget, if you guys have recipes that you enjoy in your home, please do send them to us on Instagram. We'd love to try them. It's really important, I think, that people share recipes and things they're doing to cut costs, because if you have something really cool and you're not sharing it with me, that's going to hurt my feelings. So share your recipes with us because it's important. We're sharing them. We're sharing ours with you. Every time we enjoy the meal that you share with us, we'll be able to think of you and say, "Ah, that person sent us this recipe. I hope they're doing well."
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And please give yourself some grace when you're working through your food budget. This stuff is difficult, and food, again, is one of the things, or if not the most difficult thing when budgeting. So please just give yourself some patience. Take your time with it. Change things up if you need. Readjust. Reflect and be honest. Okay, maybe that wasn't the best month. Maybe I can switch things up next time and be a little bit better.
Yeah. And if you're constantly going over your grocery budget, increase the grocery budget.
Yeah.
Like that is the answer. You could make things cheaper, but if you are already not eating out and your grocery budget is the area that you're struggling in, make it a little higher.
Yeah.
Then you'll feel like you're not failing every single month. And that's huge when you're trying to whether you're trying to be frugal or pay off debt. Like we need to feel positive doing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can always reallocate money from somewhere else in your budget to make up maybe if you're overspending somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Especially something like food. Obviously, if you're overspending on like going out to a club and buying alcohol, we might be like, "Hey, we've got to talk about this."
Oh, I do want to add alcohol is in our grocery budget.
Yes.
And if you drink a lot, you might want to have that separate because that will take a lot of money out of it. So you might want to keep that as a completely separate line item. So yeah.
I'll just say too that that's kind of helped me with not like buying a ton of beer. Like there's times when I'll buy
Because it's
a
expensive.
case of beer at Costco and I maybe get it like once every 2 months, but then I'm like, I don't need this because it's $20 out of my budget that gets me 4 Costco rotisserie chickens. All right, you guys. That's going to do it for this food episode of The Price of Avocado Toast. As always, we're so thankful for this conversation and so thankful to be part of this community with you all. Happy budgeting.
You got this, Toasties. Don't get too hungry.
Thanks for listening to The Price of Avocado Toast. If you vibed with this episode, share it with a friend that you're comfortable having money talks with. And if you don't mind, we'd love if you could rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
If you're in need of my support as a financial coach, message me on Instagram. I'd love to help in any way that I can. Until next time.